Quick warning, this video will be full of spoilers for Raised by Wolves Season 1. It's been a few months since the finale, and there are many lingering questions. What do Mother and Father find in the tropical zone? Will Mother and her creator ever reunite? And what happens when you eat Necromancer eyes? In this video, I'll comb through details from the show itself and hints given by the showrunner to predict what we'll see next season. This will, of course, include a lot of speculation, but I'll explain my logic for everything so you can let me know if you agree, disagree, or have any theories of your own. First, let's start with a quick recap of how things left off in Season 1. Marcus stops hearing the voice of Soul and aimlessly leads the Mithraic through the desert. Eventually, Lucius discovers that Marcus is an imposter, so he force-feeds him Mother's eyes and leaves him behind. Marcus wanders the desert hallucinating until he comes across a few Atheists. He kills all but one of them, whom he forces to pray. Then, above them, an Atheist ship approaches. By the way, showrunner Aaron Guzikowski has confirmed this ship is actually Mithraic technology stolen by Atheists. Meanwhile, Mother, Father, and the children set up camp by one of the pits where Mother feels she is meant to give birth. One night, she is attacked by the hooded figure, the one in possession of the tarot cards. She kills it instantly. Then, she and Father see it was carrying a Neanderthal skull, and they reveal its face. It is a partially, and I know people hate this word, devolved human, a being that is somewhere between human and these things. Back at the camp, Paul is led by Mouse to a cave painting depicting something involving Mother and Father. He also hears what he believes is the voice of Soul. It leads him to burn the tarot cards and tells him that his supposed parents, Marcus and Sue, are imposters. He shoots Sue and runs off. Inside a cave, Mother finds the remnants of the birthing chamber she saw in her vision earlier. Suddenly, Mother goes into labor, giving birth to a flying serpent, which latches onto her. Mother and Father try killing the creature by flying into the planet's core, leaving Campion behind as the new leader. However, they end up flying through the core to the other side of the planet and find the serpent has grown colossal. It flies off, and Season 1 ends. Now, let's look at what happens next with my predictions for Season 2. One of the problems with including young children in your cast is that it's very noticeable when they grow up. Season 1 was filmed in 2019, and Guzikowski hopes to begin filming Season 2 in early 2021. So, Wynton McGrath, who plays Campion, and the other child actors will have aged about 2 years. In his interview with Decider, Guzikowski said, "I have already built in a bit of a jump to adjust for the fact that they're going to be getting a little bit older. So I expect Season 2 to open with a time jump. Specifically, I think it will be roughly 9 months, because that would put us right at the end of Tempest's pregnancy. Her giving birth would be a major milestone for the character, which I don't think they'll want to gloss over in a time jump. But a time jump that is much less than 9 months wouldn't help a whole lot in explaining the aging we'll see in the characters. I also think they will use voiceover from Campion to help explain what transpired over that time period, something we have not heard since Season 1's premiere, where Campion's narration was also used to help show a few years go by. To pull off a time jump, most of the characters will have had to be in some kind of status quo where not too much happens. For example, in Season 1's premiere, we see Mother give birth. Then we time jump a few years to when the children start dying. In that time jump, we didn't miss much, just Mother and Father taking care of babies. So my first predictions will be around how our main characters have spent the last 9 months. When the Mithraic quote-unquote landed their ark, most of their tech was destroyed. Assuming the newly arrived Atheists avoid a similar fate, they'll be in a much stronger position than the Mithraic, given their ship and technology are intact. So I think they'll easily take over the campsite where Mother, Father, and the children originally resided. At the end of Season 1, when Marcus took a small crew with him to track down Sue and the children, it seemed like he left some Mithraic behind. Come Season 2, I'm predicting anyone left behind at the camp will now be imprisoned by the Atheists. Perhaps they'll be forced to hunt and gather, bringing the Atheists meat and fungus. Similarly, since Marcus greeted them by taking out 3 of their men, he will also be taken prisoner. Though, rather than put Marcus to work like the others, they'll truly imprison him. Perhaps we'll even see him wear an Otho-style spiky helmet. Given the Atheists have stolen a Mithraic ship, they should have access to that kind of technology. The Atheists may have the impulse to kill Marcus after he slaughtered a few of their men. However, I expect Marcus to negotiate for his life with valuable information. For example, he knows about Mother and Father, and he knows that the carbos are poisonous. If the Atheists take over Campion's original home, then he and the others will have to remain in hiding. Next season, we'll see them residing in caves similar to the one Mother took them to in the Season 1 finale. They'll want to leave there for the tropical zone, but it will be a long, arduous journey since they no longer have a lander. So they won't be able to leave right away, especially because Sue will be recovering from her gunshot wound and Tempest will be further along in her pregnancy. Once Sue recovers and Tempest gives birth, then Campion will lead them on a journey to the tropical zone. Last time we saw Paul, he shot his adoptive mother, then ran off while Hunter chased after him. We never saw the conclusion of Hunter's chase. All we saw in the final montage is that Hunter returned, and like everyone else in the camp, seemingly accepted Campion as their new leader. Having heard a voice he attributed to Soul, Paul is a stronger believer than ever. I do not think he'll want to associate with Campion or any of the other children like Tempest, whose faith has eroded. He certainly won't want to associate with Sue, who he now realizes murdered his biological mother and father. However, although Hunter now has some allegiance to Campion's group, he still appears to have faith in Soul. Therefore, I think Paul and Hunter may want to maintain some communication with each other. Perhaps when Hunter chased after Paul, they did meet and agreed to keep the lines of communication open. Maybe Paul filled Hunter in on some of his communications with Soul. Maybe we'll find out about this meeting next season. Season 1 established Paul as someone with strong survival skills. Look no further than the trap he built for the creatures, who we now know derived from humans. So I think Paul will live in the wilderness using a makeshift shelter, or perhaps another cave. He'll communicate in secret with Hunter, perhaps involving him in the machinations of Soul. Note, when I say Soul, I just mean the voice that Paul hears, which might be Soul or might be something else. Check out my Eden Cycle video for my theories on who that might be. In the Season 1 finale, Mother and Father crash-landed in what Guzikowski has confirmed is the tropical zone. We're led to believe this is the part of the planet most conducive to life. The only problem is, their children are still on the other side of the planet. Plus, there is a giant serpent floating around. I don't think the serpent will be an immediate danger to Mother and Father. In the cave painting Paul found, we see Mother and Father depicted in a vessel. This indicates they have some important role to play beyond what we've already seen. A role to play in whose plan? That would be Soul, or whatever intelligence appeared as Tally, whispered to Marcus, whispered to Paul, and wore Campion's face in the sim to commune with Mother. If the serpent is not an immediate threat, Mother and Father's focus will be on surviving and reuniting with their children. Surviving will be easy, considering the plethora of resources available to them. On the other hand, reuniting with their children will be difficult. The lander was likely damaged severely in its journey through the planet's core and subsequent crash. So they'll spend their time slowly rebuilding the lander to eventually take it on a journey to find their children. That could mean taking another nosedive through the planet's core and hoping for the best, or it could mean flying the old-fashioned way and surveying various areas until they find clues of Campion's whereabouts. Repairing the lander will take a while, if it's even possible, so in the meantime, they'll also explore the tropical zone. In his interview with Collider, Guzikowski confirmed there are 5 pentagonal temples on Kepler-22b. including the one discovered by the Mithraic in Season 1. For my complete theory on Raised by Wolves and what these temples represent, again, you can check out my Eden Cycle video. However, in short, I believe an artificial intelligence resides on Kepler-22b in the planet itself. It's essentially a sort of supercomputer. Somehow it has been deactivated, and the birth of Mother Serpent is one step in reactivating it. I believe the Pentagonal temples essentially serve as nodes in the planet's neural network. If there are only 5 of them on the planet, I imagine they are pretty spread out. We saw one last season, and now all the way on the other side of the planet, I suspect Mother and Father will find another. Perhaps it will be in the tropical zone and will be the source of the electromagnetic field which prevents crafts from landing there. Just like the Mithraic, I assume the newly arrived Atheists will want to head to the tropical zone. They'll run into the same issue where the electromagnetic field prevents them landing there. However, as I mentioned earlier, their tech aboard the ship will be intact, unlike the crashed Mithraic Ark. So they may have land vehicles and other tools which help them reach the tropical zone by other means. I assume they won't all head there, but more likely will send a search party to scout the area. Perhaps they'll bring Marcus along as an expendable prisoner as well, in case they have any dangerous tasks to perform. Upon arrival, they'll learn that an electromagnetic field is not the only thing they'll have to contend with at Kepler-22b's paradise. I predict that the group of atheists who step foot in the tropical zone will rapidly mutate, becoming the 4-legged creatures we saw throughout Season 1. This is based on a few observations from the show and hints from showrunner Aaron Guzikowski. In his interview with New York Times, speaking of the serpent Mother gave birth to, he said, "Mother and Father think the giant skull is from an extinct creature, not realizing that someday Mother would give birth to one and reintroduce it to the world and reactivate the planet." The phrase reactivate the planet implies that the planet was deactivated at some point, meaning someone or something tamped down Soul's power. Birthing the serpent is part of reactivating it, which I take to mean growing back some of Soul's power. What are the implications of that? What will Soul do with this power? So far, Soul has mostly used the power to communicate as Tally, as adult Campion, or as a Whisper. There's only one other show of force that's been hinted at. Something caused the humans on the planet to devolve. I believe it was Soul that caused this. By the way, I know that devolve is a controversial word, but that's the word Raised by Wolves chose, and I'm not sure there's a better single word to capture what's happening here. In this context, it essentially means that humans are losing the attributes that make them human. Something is changing them from Homo sapien to whatever these are. I think that's why Father made such a point of stating that the creatures are not sentient.
At least you're not intelligent. I died once. Death can be very unpleasant when you're intelligent.
That very human attribute was taken from them, not in a natural process of adaptation, but forcefully by an intelligence. In my interview with Aaron, he confirmed that these creatures are devolved humans. Further, he confirmed that the humanoid figure Mother killed comes from a line of humans that managed to stave off this devolution. So this creature represents something in between human and these. It is only partially devolved. If something deactivated the planet or depowered Soul, I think that is the means by which devolution was stopped. Maybe at some point, Soul let out a force or signal which caused the dehumanizing mutations. It spread throughout the planet and was stopped so that some humans fully degraded into these creatures and others were only partially affected. If Mother's Serpent is one step in reactivating the planet, it may also be one step towards bringing back that devolutionary force. Anyone who crosses its path will suffer a similar mutation. The tropical zone represents the Garden of Eden in some ways. It is a paradise, in the sense that it is the most bountiful and livable part of the planet. Mother and Father represent Adam and Eve. The serpent represents, well, the serpent. It would seem humans were long ago kicked out of the garden, similar to the biblical tale. It is a forbidden zone, hence the electromagnetic barrier. So when the Atheists try to enter, I don't think they will be allowed. I doubt they'll bump into some invisible barrier. Instead, as I suggested earlier, they will lose their humanity. They will mutate, something made possible by the return of the serpent and the return of Soul's power. If you're familiar with the black goo, or accelerant from Prometheus and Alien Covenant, you can think of this as an invisible or Wi-Fi version of that substance, something which can drive rapid mutation and alteration of DNA. However, I don't think all of the Atheists who arrive in the tropical zone will fall prey to this. I think there will be one exception, which brings us to my next prediction. In the penultimate episode of Season 1, Lucius force-fed Mother's eyes to Marcus. In the following episode, they did not kill him, but clearly seemed to have some effect. In his interview with Decider, Aaron cryptically said the following: "What happens to necro eyes when they're swallowed by a human being, I can't reveal. But that's where they are. They're very much inside of Marcus." So I think it's a safe bet that those eyes will play a role in Season 2. Some have theorized that they will give Marcus powers and strength, similar to the effect Mother's blood had on Otho. However, I think this is unlikely. As a Mithraic, Lucius should have some familiarity with the Necromancers. Now, we know that even to the Mithraic, the technology is mysterious, but I have to assume Marcus is not the first person to chow down on Necro Eyes. It would seem like a very strange impulse for Lucius if he had not seen it done, or at least heard of it being done in the past. It follows then that Lucius would have some idea of the result, and I can't imagine he would want to grant Marcus superpowers after feeling betrayed by him. Instead, I think Lucius meant for the eyes to poison Marcus. We see signs of this in the finale, with Marcus hallucinating throughout. However, as I mentioned before, the technology is also mysterious. I anticipate it having unexpected side effects. Specifically, I think that having the eyes in his system will protect Marcus from the devolution his captors undergo. This also connects to another theory many shared in Season 1. There's something special about Campion. He nearly died as a baby, then somehow survived. Further, he did not succumb to radiation poisoning like the other children did. Something is protecting him. Some have theorized that the thing which saved him as a baby was Mother's tears. That is the one time we've seen her cry, and we know that Necromancer eyes are special. So perhaps the tears, coming into contact with Campion as a baby, physically altered him. They resurrected him from near death as an infant and protected him from radiation a few years later. So, Necromancer eyes protected Campion, and perhaps they will now do the same for Marcus, saving him from mutation. If this happens, Marcus will be the last surviving member of the small crew of Atheists sent on the scouting mission. This would give Mother and Father exactly what they've been looking for: a way to travel back to their children. They'll be able to hijack any vehicles and equipment the Atheists brought with them to the tropical zone, and they'll bring Marcus back with them because he is now an important asset. In order to protect her children, Mother will need to figure out how Marcus was able to survive, so that her children can one day do the same when they too reach the tropical zone. In Season 1, Hunter betrayed the other children by calling out Father's position to the Mithraic and getting him killed, for the second time. Since then, Hunter seems to have grown closer to Father and become more sympathetic to his new group. However, he still seems to have faith in the higher cause of Soul and Mithraism, so I believe another betrayal is in order. Considering Soul or the Voice's role in Tempest's pregnancy, I assume her child is part of its plan. After she gives birth, Soul will want to take her baby for some purpose we don't yet know. To acquire Tempest's child, I think Soul will once again use Paul. It won't be easy for Paul, since Campion, Sue, and the others will likely be guarding Tempest and her child. However, since Hunter is still a believer, I think Paul will be able to convince him to join the plan. Working together, Hunter on the inside, Paul on the outside, The two will kidnap Tempest's child. And what will Soul want with this child? It would seem strange for the intelligence to require a baby in its employ. The Force clearly has no trouble recruiting fully grown humans like Marcus, so why bother recruiting an infant? Well, perhaps Soul requires a human that has been enhanced in some way, and perhaps the enhancement can most successfully be applied at the infant stage, similar to how Mother's Tears may have enhanced Campion as a baby. Tempest's child may grow to become a direct rival to Campion. This child and Campion will be two enhanced humans on opposite sides of a new theological war on Kepler 22b, between supporters of Soul and everyone else, similar to the conflict which destroyed Earth. It is also possible that another hooded figure will emerge here. In Season 1, the figure tried to kill Mother as though to prevent her giving birth to the serpent. If others of its kind are around, they may similarly want to stop Tempest's birth and Soul's acquisition of the child, all in service of stopping whatever Soul's ultimate plan turns out to be. It's hard to know exactly where Marcus will go next. He's been through a chaotic journey so far. As a child, he was forced to fight for the Atheists. As an adult, he stole the real Marcus's face, child, and religion. For a long time, he feigned Mithraism until he heard what he thinks is the voice of Soul. Suddenly, he was a devout follower. Then, by the end of Season 1, he is abandoned by the voice and the other Mithraic. In Season 2, where does he stand? Is he an atheist, a Mithraic? Where does his allegiance fall? Both sides have treated him poorly in some way. I think that in Season 2, Marcus will no longer be on any side but his own.
Who is this? The king of this world.
His new goal won't be to serve Soul or the Atheists. Instead, he will serve himself and take power by any means necessary. We've seen him rally the troops before when he convinced a group of Mithraic to kneel for him. He'll use these skills again to rally a new group, starting with Atheists. In my interview with Aaron, he explained that the Atheists are not necessarily atheists by today's standards, meaning they are not just a cohesive group of people who believe there is no God. In the world of Raised by Wolves, they are simply people who oppose Mithraism, a force that became unstoppable on Earth. If they are a disparate group, not united by a common ideology, but just by a common enemy, it stands to reason that there could easily be fractures within the group, especially on Kepler 22b. On this new planet, the Atheists are in power. They have a ship and all the tech aboard, while the Mithraic have lost nearly everything on their ark. If the Atheists easily overpower the Mithraic, the common enemy which unites them as a group will be gone. What happens next? Without a clear direction, I think the group begins to fracture. Atheists will be looking for a new direction, and if Marcus can offer it, he may be able to siphon some of them as followers for whatever cause he manufactures. As I mentioned before, the Atheists are not necessarily non-believers. They may just be non-believers in Mithraism, but still open to the possibility of something divine. Perhaps word will spread that Marcus survived the devolution that the other atheists underwent. Some atheists may view this as a supernatural miracle, giving Marcus the opportunity to once again become a religious leader. The group fractures with no common enemy and no clear direction. Marcus is viewed as someone powerful and in touch with the supernatural. He offers leadership and gains a following. In terms of the actual direction he'll offer, I think it will center on the tropical zone. Everyone will want to migrate there for the easiest life possible on this planet. Up to this point, Marcus will be the only one to have successfully stepped foot in it, so perhaps he will lead with the promise that if you follow him, he will one day bring you to the tropical zone. I doubt he'll have an actual plan to do so, but he'll give speeches and improvise to maintain power. Last season, it was a big reveal once we finally got to meet the Campion Sturges, the person young Campion is named after, and the person who reprogrammed Mother. When Mother left him, we saw Campion coughing and clearly suffering from some illness. So I think we all assumed he is dead. However, in a sci-fi show full of twists and turns, Unless I see a cold body, I never assume someone is for sure dead. Given the way Mother deifies Campion, and the way she was manipulated by the vision of him in the sim, a reunion has a lot of dramatic potential. Too much for the writers to pass up, in my opinion. Further, as I mentioned earlier, Aaron confirmed that the Atheist ship is hacked Mithraic technology. Up to this point, we've only met one person capable of hijacking Mithraic technology, Campion Sturges. I suspect he is the one who stole the Mithraic ship full of Atheists. It would be a strange turn of events, since it certainly seemed like Campion had no hope or intention of getting off Earth. However, it's possible that some opportunity arose to steal the Mithraic craft after Mother and Father left. That would explain why they arrived after the original arc and why no one knew about it. Mother knew the Mithraic arc was coming, which means Campion must have programmed that knowledge into her. If he had known an Atheist craft would arrive after, he would have given her that knowledge as well, unless it was a last-minute plan, only thrown together sometime after Mother and Father's departure. Sometime in Season 2, I expect Mother to end up on the Atheist ship. Perhaps she's even taken aboard as a prisoner. She should be on their side, but I expect the Atheists will be uncertain of her at first. She is a Necromancer after all, and we know they have every reason to view her with caution. So they'll keep her safely restrained. Even if she is reprogrammed, Necromancers have a knack for being unpredictable. While Mother is aboard the ship, I can easily picture an episode ending on the cliffhanger of Campion Sturges walking into the room. By the way, even if he is leading the Atheists on that ship, I still think he will approach Mother with caution. As confident as he is in his hacking and programming abilities, she is still a Necromancer and unpredictable. Also, all of the original children, except Campion, are gone. This might raise one of Campion's eyebrows. In any case, I expect the reunion to be anything but clean. Campion will approach with caution. Mother might approach with love, or skepticism after being tricked once before. We also have to wonder how accurate her memories are. Is the real Campion the same one from her memories? It's hard to say for sure. Even if Campion ultimately comes to trust Mother again, it will still be messy, because that may not be true for the other Atheists. In fact, that may be fodder for Marcus to take a leadership role. If people are paranoid about Campion working with Mother, Marcus could pull on that string. He could tell people, don't trust your leaders. They harbor a Necromancer, just like the ones who destroyed Earth. Follow me instead. Speaking of Earth, by the way, let's go to my final prediction. In Season 1, we were given a few glimpses of Earth just prior to the Mithraic arc's departure. Earth's status since then has been a bit of a mystery. Has humanity been completely wiped out, or have some been left behind? Will we find out in Season 2? Aaron actually commented on this in his interview with Collider, saying the following: "There will be more flashbacks, and perhaps some present-day Earth peaks as well, to see what might be going on there after everything's over. Because there are still Necromancers on Earth. They were left behind, most of them. The Mithraic obviously didn't want to bring any with them. They were done with them, didn't trust them. If we're given a glimpse of present-day Earth, it wouldn't just be a status check to say, yep, Earth is totally destroyed all right. There would have to be some relevant action taking place there. We could see some straggling humans left behind, trying to survive, but that seems unlikely. It would be near impossible for those humans to reach Kepler-22b in a time frame where they could be relevant to our main characters. It took the Mithraic and the Atheists years to reach the planet. Instead, the focus will be on the armada of Necromancers left behind. If humanity has been wiped out, with any survivors having abandoned the planet, what is left for the Necromancers to do? Kepler-22b gives us a hint. I and others have theorized that the intelligent being, perhaps Soul, which has been present throughout the series, lives within Kepler-22b itself. Further, I suspect that this being is the source of Necromancer technology. The Mithraic built the Necromancers based on instructions from Scripture and do not understand the underlying technology. As Aaron pointed out, they don't even trust the Necromancers fully. This implies that the technology was handed down by an outside force. If Soul sent Necromancer technology to Earth, it must have been part of some long-term plan. So far, the rise of Necromancers drove Earth to an all-out nuclear war, wiping out humanity. What's next? If we listen to what the intelligence said as Campion in the sim, it seems to despise humanity, and desires to create something better. Again, check out my Eden Cycle video for more on this. Ultimately, the intelligence wants more of its kind. It wants more life which it considers worthy of existence, as opposed to humanity. It sent Necromancers to Earth so they would destroy humanity and turn Earth into another Kepler-22b. The Necromancers will turn Earth into another planet-sized supercomputer housing a godlike intelligence. I can imagine a scene toward the end of Season 2 where our characters stumble on some clue similar to last season's cave painting. A clue which points to Soul's ultimate intentions. Then we cut to Earth. We see its destruction. We see hordes of Necromancers. And we see a brand new Pentagonal temple under construction, similar to the one shown on Kepler-22b. This will perhaps be an important step towards Soul or the intelligence stretching its influence across the galaxy. Anyway, I think we can wrap it up there. With a show like Raised by Wolves, there are nearly limitless possibilities, and I can't wait to find out which way they choose to go. Make sure to let me know in the comments which of my predictions you agree with, disagree with, or what theories you have of your own. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you're notified the next time we do a video. There's more Raised by Wolves content on the way, so make sure you're subscribed to stay tuned. Also, if you need more Ridley Scott-esque sci-fi to tide you over between seasons, check out my video series, Adapting Fire and Stone, a comic series traversing the Prometheus, Alien, and Predator franchises. With that, thanks for watching, and see you on the next One Take.